Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be bringing through some ASMR and channeling that relaxation energy your way. And I'm actually just going to be using the visual and the auditory for this. So I'm not going to be using any props. Portrait. Okay. So for me, getting into ASMR, is more of a state shift, and it's almost where, for me, I can let go of all, if not most, of my worries and just enjoy. You know, I don't know if you ever had this experience, but for me I liken it to, you know how when people will see something and it makes them laugh? Well, for me, ASMR is my way. Getting into this state of ASMR is my way of taking something less seriously and lightening the mood. And for me, it's a blessing that I can switch into that because, well, we can switch into any state that we want, but we have to want it. Like, you have to want to find something funny, or it has to be funny for you in order for you to change state like that. And that's why people will book comedy shows far in advance, because they know, hey, I want to set myself up to experience laughter. I haven't been to any comedy shows in a really long time. I think the last one that I went to just wasn't that funny. And anyway, this year we've got a couple music shows that we're going to, which is exciting because I haven't been to any kind of music show or festival in a good 6 years or more. And the one that I'm really excited to go and watch, and excited is also tinged with this feeling of nostalgia, because I'm going to watch an artist in July in Toronto, and most of you will probably know her. It goes by Alanis Morissette, and for me, listening to her music, it brings back so much nostalgia. Back to when I was teenager, and I used to sit next to, like, my my dad was a big gamer, and still is actually, and he got me and my brothers into EverQuest, and so he used to sit and play EverQuest, and sometimes I would come into his office and I would get out my laptop and I would play EverQuest 2. Not EverQuest 2, but TOO2. I actually liked EverQuest 2, but no one else seemed to like it in my family, so anyway, and I would sit next to him, and I remember I used to have my sweets next to me, and I remember he would play Alanis Morissette in the background, and we would go raiding together in the guild that we were in. And I was thinking this morning about the nostalgia of that, and how part of me doesn't really want to experience the, you know how nostalgia is kind of mysterious, like it has both feelings, like when you relive a moment in your present that is from your past. For example, when you hear music in the present moment that takes you back to when you were younger, I find personally, I don't know about you, but I find that it's tinged with like really happy feelings, and then it's also got this like, I don't want to say melancholic, but it's got something there that's like, oh, I'll never experience that again. And so I kind of love and hate nostalgic feelings. So when I say that I'm excited to go see Alanis Morissette, I'm also like, anytime they play her on the radio, my heart does this little flutter of, yeah, it's also like tinged with this like excitement, and it's like tinged with sadness that I don't think I'll ever play a video game with my dad and my brothers ever again. I never say never though, because I was thinking about this last night. I was thinking, like, why don't I play video games anymore? Because I know that my dad does, and I think one of my brothers still does, and I'm pretty sure my other brother does, but I don't know if he plays EverQuest. And same goes with WoW. We played WoW. My dad never got into WoW though, so I think EverQuest has always been the thing that they liked. But I haven't played any of those games in probably almost a decade. And I used to think that I would always want to play games with them, especially because I knew that we were all going to live in separate countries. Like deep down, that was like an inclination, and then I think at the time, one of my brothers had already moved away, and my dad was talking about moving to another country as well, and so I knew, we kind of knew that we were going to be, living in different countries since I was a teenager. And I always said that I would play with them, but I think, like, when I met Eddie, and even before then, I was like kind of slowly moving away from video games, because as much as I had a good experience with them growing up, I also feel like I didn't get as much out of life as I could have. It sounds weird saying it out loud, but like I remember my summer holidays from school, like I used to spend all day in front of the computer playing WoW or something like that. And I think when I got older, I looked at that time in my life and I said, I'm not sure if I want to do that ever again. But again, never say never, because it is fun. I guess what it is when you have, when you want to be close to people and family and friends, you're kind of sacrificing that a little bit when you're like doing your job or you're online on the internet, when you're on technology. And maybe sacrifice is a strong word to use there, but I guess what I'm saying is deep down, I wouldn't want to have any more time on technology than I already do. Like I feel like there's got to be ways that I can teach myself to be in the real world more often. I'm feeling like silly saying this out loud, but I know you probably know what I'm talking about. It's like, I think deep down, me and my brothers actually really wanted to connect with my dad beyond the screen. And, because that just wasn't happening, we all connected through a screen, even though we lived in the same house. Which is kind of sad, but it has its own beauty as well. But I don't know, I guess I probably would. I probably would raid with them. Just one last time or something, just for nostalgia's sake. But anyway, point was, I'm excited to go see Alanis Morissette, but I'm also like not wanting to feel the nostalgia of that a little bit, because sometimes I remember Audrey Hepburn saying that she never lives in the past. I remember reading her biography when I was younger. And I remember I wrote a saga, a young person's saga, when I was at college. I don't remember it word by word, but it was something like an old man said to his grandson, "Don't waste your time living in the past or thinking about the future. Only live for the here and now, the present moment." And the boy pondered this for a few minutes and said, "Well, if I never think about the past and if I don't plan for the future, how will I know what to live for?" And I remember that piece was published in a book, and I still don't really know what it means. I know what it means, but I don't know who to believe. Should I believe the old man in my story, or should I believe the young boy? You know what I mean? Anyway, both have some truth to it, and I'd love to hear what truth, like, if you were to think about it, where do you land more? And I know we'll get like 50-50 answers technically, but I guess if I was to choose one, I would probably say I live more in the past and the future. And again, like Audrey Hepburn says, I don't think that's necessarily healthy, the most healthy thing you can do. And it's not true all of the time, but I do find myself getting a little bit of gratification for like the mixture of the present and the past. So a bit like I said, with a favourite movie that you watched in the past, or favourite music that you listened to, or even a person. Like if sometimes I'll see a person in the world and they remind me of somebody, and again it's like that nostalgic feeling. It's almost like you trust them a little bit more. because they remind you of someone from the past, or you don't trust them more. You know, they might remind you of someone in the past that didn't do very enjoyable things to you, so it can go both ways. But anyway, I guess we're talking about nostalgic feelings today. And ASMR is a little bit like that for me. I can't seem to want to let it go, and I think it's because it played a pivotal role in my life. I've always wanted to try and bring through more of a... Because when I was getting into ASMR, I was about 16 or 17 when I started watching it on YouTube. I mean, I've experienced ASMR since I was a really young child. I can remember girls playing with my hair in primary school on the carpet, and it used to send, a lot of pleasurable tingles down my body. And it would just put me in a trance where I just felt so relaxed. But when I started researching it, and I saw that people were making videos about ASMR, I remember that at that time in my life I was really seeking, I got into Christianity and I was really seeking spirituality, sacred connection to God. And I was also really seeking relaxation because I was really stressed. So when I made my channel, I think one of my goals has been to try and merge those two things together. I don't think I've always succeeded whatsoever in that, but I remember somebody wrote to me and asked me, how did I ever get into making videos on YouTube? And I think obviously there was many reasons for it, but I remember the main one that stands out was that when I found the ASMR community on YouTube, I was like, finally, introverts, here we go. I don't feel like such an outcast. And I thought to myself, if these introverts can do this and put themselves out there on YouTube, I'm in. Because I was quite quiet, when I turned into a teenager, because I was really gregarious. I could act, I would sing in front of anyone when I was younger. But when I turned 10, big shifts happened in my life, big events happened, and I turned into a really quiet, introverted, muted kind of person. And I remember a lot of people around me at that time, friends specifically, they struggled to understand me, and because a lot of my reactions were on the inside, I didn't speak up for myself as often as I wish I would have. I just didn't know how to. It was almost like a foreign thing for me. And yeah, feeling quite outcasted in those days because I was very introverted. And then so when I turned 17 or 18, how old was I? I think I was just leaving uni when I started my first ASMR video. So I would have been about 20, 21. And I was like, I'm just gonna give this a shot. I think the ASMR community helped me to come out of my shell a little bit and actually put myself out there. And technically, I think I switched gaming for doing YouTube because I feel like it got me a little bit more socialization, because I wasn't really the type of person that was on the headsets when I would play games. I would type in groups, but that was about it. And, you know, as much as I loved my mage character, you know, I felt like I had a lot more expressing of myself that I needed to do, you know, to kind of keep up some form of self-preservation, I guess you could say, because at that time in my life I was feeling so outcasted from society, and like I needed to get in society again, even though like technically I was gonna go and join the workforce and all of that, but I will say that that didn't really happen. I mean, I tried to work as a teacher, but yeah, it just didn't work out. And so I knew that I had to try and be putting myself out there, and not just, and I knew that it was probably going to be through technology because of how much time I'd spent on technology. Like, I can remember in my last year of high school, I don't think anybody knows about this, including my parents, but I used to skive school, and I used to go in the mornings, and I used to leave at lunchtimes, and I used to come home and the house was empty because everyone's at work, and I used to play WoW. And my brother always wondered how I got so high on my on my character, and I was like, I don't know, I'm just really good at this, you know. And I think I only had like, no one ever found out about it, but it was a very close call, so don't skive school. I'm not advocating for that, but I did because I hated it. But yeah, I still did great in my studies, so academically I did fine. You know, there was only one teacher that recognised that I wasn't showing up to her classroom. I would shout her out, because actually she did inspire me. She was my religious studies teacher, and I remember I got an A in her class, A plus I got, and I think it's because she was the only one that noticed that I wasn't, when I didn't show up to her classroom. I had 5 other teachers that didn't notice that I wasn't there. So even though I didn't talk much in her classroom, I'm glad that she noticed me enough to tell me that, hey, you ought to be coming to these classes. And so I did. And so I think Tuesdays and Thursdays were the only days that I stayed a full day at school in my last year. Anyways, I've just told you my life story. And I'm probably gonna just, again, nostalgia. It's, I'm not sure it's the healthiest thing in the world, but at the end of the day, like, I feel better. It's like, even if I'm reminiscing like that, and like thinking into things in the past and telling you guys about it, I feel better than doing nothing, where I'm just kind of, well, obviously I'll get up to something, although sometimes I just sit there and doom scroll, so this feels better than that. Obviously there's other things to do, you know, cook, clean and all that, but you know, you can't do that all the time. You gotta have a bit of socialization, and for me, that's what this is sometimes, where I can just share things and just be open and vulnerable, but to a degree that I'm comfortable with. Not where, you know, I'm like telling you things that I wouldn't want you to know about, because I'm just telling stories at the end of the day. But Yeah, I think there's a balance, between like being of service in the world and self-preservation. And for me, with these videos, they're a bit of both. And for me, that's just what works. As much as I would like to play video games with my family, and even though it's not much connection, it's something. I've told myself that there's a reason that I don't spend hours on those games anymore. It's not serving me. But it might be for you, So I'm not trying to say you shouldn't be. Definitely not. I'm just saying me personally. I enjoy sharing on YouTube with my fellow introverts that I bet are deep down extroverts, but if you're like me, it's like under the surface, where it's like, I don't know how you can go from an extrovert to a complete introvert, but I guess I just adapted to be like that, and I am coming to a point where I don't even regret it. I accept myself as I am, and I don't need anybody to tell me to be different, because there's nothing wrong with me. And the way that I adapted to life, I'm sure, was part of the circumstances that, I needed. The way that I adapted to life is what's helped me to get to where I am. Like getting to almost 30, I think that's a pretty good thing, as terrible as it is sometimes. It's both worth celebrating and being enjoying it as much as you can.